So today, for our NewFields Ag and Low Tech Innovations in Your Field FYRE-UP training, we are looking at cleaner, safer, greener solutions to help with nutrient use efficiency here in the ag world. And our company has grown very rapidly, and thanks to the help of our good partners over at YMS. They provide us a lot of good products and support to help you and our customers be supported. So we appreciate seeing our dealers and distributors on with us today. Today we're focusing on several products and solutions for nitrogen fixing, phosphorus solubilization, and plant health. And what we're doing, for those of you who've not attended yet in the past few weeks, we're taking the time to more go one by one with certain lineups rather than trying to fit everything in all at once, and give our trainers more time to kind of get into the details. And so from an introductory standpoint, I have a few slides I wanted to go through as we set this up. And my name is Michael Musselman. I'm one of the owners and the VP of Sales and Marketing for our companies. Our new home office is out of Grand Mound, and we're happy to have anyone listening come by and meet with us there and see our new facilities. We have warm storage and cold storage, as well as our new home office facilities right there on the south side of town in Grand Mound, just west of DeWitt, north of Davenport, about a half an hour. So in thinking about these innovations as we go forward, go to my next slide here. All right. We want you to think about, and you'll see this kind of information up on our NewFields Ag website as we go forward, and we're doing a redo and a revamp also on the Low Tech website to update things as we go forward. But we want our customers and our dealers to know that we're in the climate smart space with bringing technologies, enhanced soil and plant health and nutrient management efficiencies. Those are important areas as we go forward in the current regulatory environment, the economic environment, supply chain issues, and so forth. And one thing that we're very, how should I say, enthused about, and we feel confident in, is that we're combining science and practical technologies with education to be a leader in this space as we go forward. So we're thankful that you've are joining us in that in this initiative here to lead this space. So we know that farmers are looking for guidance regarding how biological solutions fit into their cropping systems. They want high quality products, excellent agronomic support, and training on product use. And this is where we're focusing on this here, is the training and understanding the economic use of our products. And this is something that people have told us that they enjoy and appreciate. And this series of webinar recordings that we're doing, or trainings, is a testament to that as we go forward. And we appreciate you participating in it. So a lot of us talk about soil health, work in the soil health space, work in this biological space. And we got, this is a slide I co-opted from another person that kind of is, a little humor here. When you're at the party and no one wants to talk about soil health, you kind of sit by yourself. But I think at our party here, we all want to talk about that. We want to talk about plant health and how we can participate to make our crops do better, have better food, feed, and so on. This is part of our initiative as we go forward. we want to provide our dealers like yourself an opportunity to have an engaging discussion. What you don't see from us is just a one product company, and that it's the one solution that just fits every little thing that you may need. We've scouted and sifted and brought products to the marketplace to put in our catalog to fill a lot of different spaces and needs as we go forward. So there's an expansion, rapidly expanding that's booming here in the biological space. And one of the things that we want you to think about is that this space is open for lots of people to participate. It's not just for the large companies who control seed and chemicals these days in the traits. It's for companies like ours and YMS to bring this good information to you and to provide solutions there for you. One of the things I want to let you know too is if you have any comments, raise your hand in the chat, or one of our sales team is watching the chat on there. If you want to put in a question as we go along, you're welcome to do that, and we can try to get that answered as we go along. We'll also have that information later in terms of question and answers that you can talk at the end with us also. So we know that farmers are wanting proof of concept before trying biologicals. Some of you on this call have already used our products and have good success with this, and we're very thankful for that. Sales are exceeding last year's sales already, so we've got a lot of good reports out there in the field. So just know this as farmers, as you listen, or as resellers as you go out, that the survey was done. About 4% of people say they see no benefit in using biologicals. 21% say they don't know, so that's about a fourth of people. 35% say they see potential in using biologicals, and 41% need to know more. So about 3 out of 4 farmers that you would approach, think of it that way, are looking for more information as they go along. And when we look at what to bring in our lineup, we want to know, does something work? Is there an agronomic and a yield advantage? Does it provide an ROI, so a return on investment? And can the farmer use it in the operationally and environmentally sound manner? So we focus on plant health and soil health, and these are the types of metrics that companies like YMS has used also for what they've brought to us and in their lineups. A few things to think about when it comes to microbes. There's ectophytes, which are generally functioning outside the plant. There's endophytes that work in or on the plant. And there's soil-dwelling microbes that work in the soil, even absent of the work of the plant. And then there's also live, from a sense of the idea of using live microbials to create materials that we then harvest, in essence, from them. And then we use those compounds as biotechnology or biotech microbial fermentation products. So you'll see some of those as we go forward also. This just kind of separates out the types that you may see there that are in the soil, or that you're using, or that are on the marketplace. We also look at how the microbe and the treatments are applied. So you have seed applied treatments, either liquid or dry. We have the planter box space that we're leading very rapidly. A lot of the companies are getting and wanting to get into this space, but we can apply the dry box powder in different methods in order to just get that seed treated as the farmer stands in front of the planter or the black boxes or the seed tenders to get these technologies out there. And this is an important one because it helps kind of spread into that farmer applied market very quickly. And also it allows us to put materials on, maybe instead of your seed treaters approaching 4, 6, or 8 ounces of wet applied material and cannot go higher with regards to stickiness on the seed and so forth. So this allows us to bring microbes out that may have a problem being delivered in a liquid way, where we can take and make them very happy and get them onto the seed. Liquid in furrow is one method, foliar application, and just straight soil application. And then we're also starting into the idea and the research of when we stack these different products, what kinds of results do we see? And so we're happy to take any comments on those as we go. So thinking of agronomic benefits, operational benefits, and economic benefits, these are important things for us to consider. And we want you to know that we've done the good work to make these available to you. So I'll kind of stop there for the moment, and I'll bring in our team. I want to let you know, I think we have Dan Johnson on and Brian Tully. Also, we have John and Amanda out in Ohio now, and Chris Roberts working in Eastern Iowa. So we've been able to have several sales reps brought on this year to help service our customers and serve you. So we appreciate the support you've given us, and look for us at the farm shows this year. I want to let you know you're also welcome to work farm shows with us as we go forward at some of the main shows. So with us today, Josh O'Brien, National Sales Manager for YMS, and Shandy Bertolino. Josh is out of Minnesota. Shandy's from Central Illinois here with us. She works in a couple states managing the accounts with us and helping support us. So Josh, you're welcome to share and take away on the screen, and we'll let you do the presentation as we go forward here, and look for some new information, some yield information from you. And maybe Josh, tell us what's new or what you've seen here briefly as you dive into your presentation.
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Excited to be here with you guys today. I have Shandy Bertolino with us as well. Shandy, why don't you kick us off with introduction of yourself and your location, the territory you cover, and then I'll finish up with me, and we'll go from there.
Sure, no problem. Thanks, Josh. As Michael mentioned, I'm Shandy Bertolino. I'm based out of Morrisonville, Illinois. So Central Illinois, Southern Illinois, whichever way you want to slice it. I'm account manager for Indiana and Illinois. So I'm here to help call on customers, educate customers, do trainings, whatever you guys need me to do, basically support NewField and their dealers. Live on a farm. My husband farms, so I live it every day. So excited to be here, excited to help you guys.
Thanks, Shandy. Yeah, Shandy hit on a very important thing at the end there, that her husband farms, her family farms. She lives and breathes it. She's not just talking the talk. Her family farm uses the products that we talk about today. So she definitely puts her money where her mouth is when it comes to promoting and using on their own farm. So thank you, Shandy. Appreciate that. As you guys get questions, feel free to dial them into the chat box. I will kind of poll the group every now and then throughout the presentation, so have your fingers ready, and Shandy will read them off, the answers as we go through. But for those of you that I haven't met in person yet, Josh O'Brien, I'm the National Sales Manager for Yieldmaster Solutions, and I am based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've been with the company for a little over 3 years now, going through this biological journey, and I think we're getting really close to where we want to be in terms of our structure, but we're still growing dramatically quick, and excited to share the products with you today. So today we're going to focus on 2 main products. If we have a little bit of time at the end, I'll mention a third. But for those of you that have seen the presentation before, we'll talk about Invita a little bit. And then we're going to shift gears into our newest product, NutriQuire, that performed extremely well this past season. And as Michael alluded to, some of the trends we're seeing this year, dry weather again across most of the upper Midwest. We're going to talk a little bit about just what we can do to maybe combat some of that as well. So without further ado, we'll jump into it. If you guys have questions, type in the chat box, take yourself off mute, whatever's easier for you. Let me share my screen here. Okay, so we're going to start with Envita. This is our #1 product today. We started with it back in 2019. For those of you that have heard of other products out there, there's, kind of 2 or 3, maybe 4 leading products in the nitrogen fixing space. Pivot Bio has one called Proven. Corteva has one called Nutritia N. Our product is called Envita. We all kind of get lumped into the same group as being nitrogen fixing products. But today we're going to focus a little bit on just how we're different, how we work, how we go to market, some of those things. And it starts at the very beginning here in what is Envita. And it is a liquid product. It comes in 1-gallon jugs, and it has a single strain of bacteria in the product called Gluconoacidobacter diazotrophicus. We call it GD for obvious reasons. But this was actually discovered in sugarcane in South America. And this bacteria is really unique. It forms a symbiotic relationship with the host plant and provides nitrogen directly to the cell, which is a very important part of this product that we'll talk about later, both above ground and below ground, which again is another distinguishing factor of this product that we'll get into here a little bit later as well. And it works all season long. We don't fizzle off towards the end of the year. In fact, we continue to ramp up our populations throughout the course of the season. And essentially, if you've ever seen that lower right-hand graph there, if you've taken an Ag 101 class, essentially we're targeting that gap in nitrogen demand. So you see as plants get more mature, their demand for nitrogen goes up, but their availability goes down. So you have that highlighted yellow area, which is that gap of the nitrogen a plant wants but cannot access. Our goal and our go-to-market strategy is to bridge that gap. So we do not advocate to reduce your nitrogen when you're using Envita. We know that more than likely that gap is happening in your cropping system, and we want to be in that plant to maximize your yield throughout the course of the year. So again, just a little difference in how we go to market maybe versus some of the other products. Very quick timeline of Envita, because a lot of people come up to me and say, man, you guys are striking right while the iron's hot. What great timing you had on bringing this product out. It wasn't that simple. It was kind of serendipitous that it did get released when it did. But this bacteria was actually discovered in 1988 by a group of professors from University of Nottingham. And it took them quite a long time to really figure out what they had. And if you look at the timeline here in the orange box, in 1995, they discovered that, holy cow, this bacteria is intracellular, right? That's a huge part of what we talk about today. And it took them, 7 years to figure that piece out. Then you fast forward through the IP process, the patents that have to be done. Finally, in 2012, the company was formed to take it to market, a company called Azotic. They started over in Europe for several years, continued to enhance the formulation, made the product easier to use, all those types of things. In 2019 is when they decided to bring that product to the US. Coincidentally, we were forming a company called Yield Master Solutions that identifies innovative biological products and brings them to the market. And it was a natural fit to work with them to allow them to continue doing what they do best, which is their research and product development, and allow us to focus on market development and sales. So that's how the marriage between the two companies came about. But again, not an overnight success with this product. It took, upwards of 25, 30 years to really get it from discovery to where it is today. This is our message that we're running out to the country with this year is weatherproof your nitrogen. So poll question number 1, while I'm going through this, how many of you were actually short moisture this year on your operations or with your customers? Type yes if it is. If you were, if you weren't, type no. But one of the things we're seeing quite a bit of is this whole moisture thing in the upper Midwest in particular was a big deal this past year. And we're going to talk about why Envita is so critical in those low moisture situations. And conversely, you talk about when you get a wet year, losing nitrogen, just how that impacts the plant as well. And Envita can really assist you on both sides of the coin there. So, Shandy, do we have any responses, or is the group asleep already?
No, we do. We have 2 responses. One yes, one no.
Okay, 50-50. We're running 50-50 here. Okay, so we're also going to dive into the key benefits of the product today. We're going to talk about application method, the fact that we're a multi-crop product. We're not just corn. And then we're going to go through some data to finish up towards the end here. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start where we started in 2019. This product came to us and it was an in-furrow application product. And that was a great starting point for us. But some of the key highlights of being in furrow is that we could be mixed with fertilizer. We could be mixed with starter, which was a very nice option. Now there's some really distinct caveats to that. However, we needed to be mixed with water. So the higher the salt fertilizer, the more water we need. So if you're going in with a 10-34-0, put 2 to 2.5 gallons of water with us to buffer that salt out. If you got a lot lower salt fertilizer, a 624, something along those lines, we're okay with 1 to 1.5 gallons of water per acre to buffer that salt out. So make sure you do that if you're going to put us down in furrow in the same tank as the fertilizer. Otherwise, the dosatron systems. I don't know if anybody has customers that use dosatrons, but they seem to be pretty popular in certain parts of the country. And this is a great option for using Envita. You load it in there, it directly injects it into the main line on the way out, and the interaction between the bacteria and the fertilizer is very minimal. So the survivability of our bacteria goes up dramatically. So I would encourage that if you're going to do it in furrow. But the application rate is going to be the same, whether it's in furrow, whether it's foliar, and no matter what crop you put it on. We are 3.2 ounces per acre, or 1 gallon per 40 acres. Questions on the in-furrow before we shift gears to the foliar, which is probably closer to 80-85% of our market today. I'll give it just 15-20 seconds to see if anything comes in through the chat.
We have more yeses than nos on moisture now. So it's 5 to 1.
Okay, 5 to 1?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Got a foliar.
Perfect. All right, any questions on the in-furrow before we go foliar, Shandy?
I don't think so.
Let's keep going. Just a quick slide demonstrating in-furrow. There are some distinct early advantages that in-furrow can give you that foliar may not, but we're going to talk about that in a minute, just, which one I would recommend. But you do definitely see some really nice benefits on the in-furrow. Foliar, again, 80-85% of our business today is foliar, and it's really simple to do. You can apply it with herbicide. That's how most of our guys do it on their post herbicide application. They're going to mix it in the same tank, and they're going to go with all good biologicals. Dilution is always the solution. So poll question number 2, while I'm going through this, on average, what would a gallons per acre of water be that your growers apply to their field? Because that makes a big difference. We've seen it in our data. So type that in, and Shandy will read it off, a few of the examples off here in a minute. But 12 gallons per acre of water is good. 15 gallons per acre of water is better. 20 gallons per acre of water would be the best. I'm not unrealistic to know that there's parts of the country that go 10 gallons per acre and maybe even less. But really, 2 things come into play. We want coverage on that crop. And number 2, we don't want to dehydrate off of the leaf. So if we can get 12, 15, even 20 gallons of water per acre, that's a really nice situation for us. Again, we are compatible with herbicides. Same application rate as the in-furrow, 1 gallon per 40 acres. And something kind of new and exciting for us just this last couple of months is we did get registered to be applied with XtendiMax and Ingenia dicamba. So for those of you that have soybean growers that are spraying those chemicals, we are tank friendly with that now. So had to go through that approval process. Shandy, did we get any responses?
We did. We have 15, 15, 12, and 18.
Okay, well, that's good. So most of you guys are already between that 12 to 20 gallons per acre range there anyway. So you're spot on there. We just marry right into that program. Any questions on foliar before we shift gears? I'm going to go through the timing here when you apply it, but outside of that, any other questions? Okay, Shandy, if any pop up, just interrupt me.
Okay, sounds good.
Timing wise, V2 to V6. So we want to get it on early plant growth stage is better for us. So V2, don't be afraid to go out and spray V2, V3. I know that plant is small, but this is live bacteria, guys. It only takes a few of these guys to get in the plant and they'll repopulate on their own. We are not like a contact kill where, you have to, hit the entire plant in order for it to be effective. So get out there. We can go V6. I have growers that go later. Shandy got some data in out of Illinois this year of a grower that went at tassel, and it looked pretty good. But overall, the general recommendation is the earlier you get it on, the better the result tends to be. So V2 to V6 on corn. On soybeans, V2 to V4. Again, soybeans are late nitrogen users that use most of it during pod fill. So that window can be extended a little bit, but again, we want to be in the plant. We'll survive all season long. So get us in there early and give us more days to have an impact. Okay, so once we're inside the plant, though, it really does not matter if we go in foliar or in furrow. So I'm going to get my little laser pointer out here. If we go in furrow, we're going to enter in through the root tip. So differentiator from other products, some other nitrogen fixing products will live on the root system and they'll work to capture nitrogen from around the root system. And that's perfectly fine. But we actually enter inside the plant through the root tip. If we go foliar, we're going to go inside the plant through the stoma. And essentially, once we get in the plant, we're going to work the same. So on the right-hand side, you see this little diagram here. What you're looking at is the GD bacteria entering the plant, colonizing inside the plant, but here's the real secret sauce. Remember back in the beginning when I told you in 1995, they discovered that this thing was intracellular. We get inside the plant cell and we create these little air pockets, or what we call vesicles. These vesicles, the easy way to think about it, think about what a nodule does on a legume, how it has the ability of capturing that atmospheric nitrogen from around the root zone. We're doing a very similar thing with these vesicles, with one big difference. Instead of being limited to being on the root, on the outside of the plant below ground, we're putting hundreds of millions of these vesicles inside your plant, inside the plant cell, and allowing it to move freely from the root tip to the leaf tip and everywhere in between. So when air moves through this plant, or when this plant is photosynthesizing air, what's happening is these little vesicles are capturing a small piece of nitrogen from the atmosphere, and they're pulling it directly into the plant tissue, primarily above ground. We're giving you nitrogen where it's needed, when it's needed, and spoon feeding that plant nitrogen all season long to help you maximize your yield and minimize that gap that we had early on in the presentation of nitrogen. So if you can understand this this little diagram here, we're about 95% of the way to understanding Envita. And we are going to go through this a little bit more in depth here over the next couple slides.
Which I would just add, and I know, Josh, you're getting to it, but I would just add that this slide here, yes, you're 95% of understanding how it works, but this is also what differentiates us from our competitors and how the product works. So that's one thing that you can put on your list of notes. This is one thing that makes us different from some of our competitors on the market.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Shandy. So as we look through it here, let's talk about, we're going to go step by step here, and we're going to geek out a little bit, but I think it's worthwhile to do. So on the left-hand side, what you're looking at is the GD bacteria that has been stained so we can see it under a microscope. So we're seeing that bacteria actually enter into the actual corn root tip. So we know, number one, we can colonize that plant, which is a extremely important first step. But on the right-hand side here, what you're looking at, that same leaf tissue, or that same plant, excuse me, now we're looking at a section of the leaf tissue, and you can see that that black little spots has now translocated from the root tip up into the leaf tip. So now we know that our Invita bacteria not only colonizes, but is going to translocate from down here all the way up into here, which is a critical step 1 and 2 to get to where we want to get for success. But here's the $100 million question, is how do we know that we fix nitrogen, right? So the way that they prove that out is they put plants into a growth chamber. They marked the nitrogen isotope in that growth chamber, or essentially, put a color onto the nitrogen in the air so that they could see it under what they call a nanosim microscope. So what you're seeing on the right-hand side here in the blue is the GD colored bacteria, and this pinkish yellow color, that is our marked nitrogen isotope, and we can actually physically see it under the nanosim scope, where the GD bacteria is now fixating that atmospheric nitrogen that was originally on the outside of the plant, that is now on the inside of the plant being fixated. There is no soil in this system. There is no other way that nitrogen could have gotten into that plant other than our bacteria fixating it through that process that I just explained to you a couple slides ago. So this is a really, really cool slide. I know it's kind of geeky a little bit, but it really does get the message across on just how we know that we're doing what we say we're doing. And last but not least, where does that end up? Well, we put nitrogen where it's needed when it's needed. So we're going to put that nitrogen directly into the chloroplast of the plant. We can see it here on the slide. That pinkish yellow color again is back inside the chloroplast. Why is that important? Shandy alluded to it earlier. Number one, it's a big differentiator between us and other products. As far as I know, we're the only one that's been able to track the fact that we're putting that nitrogen inside the actual plant cell. And then that's important though, because nitrogen is part of the amino acids, which are building blocks of protein, right? Proteins are required for chlorophyll production, and chlorophyll is required for the chloroplast, which is where photosynthesis occurs. So we are providing a macronutrient, the primary nutrient needed to help with chloroplast development and photosynthesis, a very primary function of what that plant wants to do. The other reason it's important that we're inside the chloroplast is we're not interfering with the natural nitrogen system, right? So bacteria get a little bit lazy sometimes, just like humans do. They want to consume the easiest food source to them. Well, if we live on the outside of the plant cell, there's probably free-ranging nitrogen in that outside of the plant cell, so we can capture that instead of having to create our own. But because we're inside the actual plant cell, we don't want to interfere with that process at all. We have to form a system, which is that little vesicle system, to capture our own nitrogen. So we're not interfering with the existing nitrogen process that that plant is conducting, especially on beans when you start talking lazy beans.
Yeah, I was just going to point out that I think that's a really huge key point to note. I think that's a question that I get a lot when it comes to soybeans. So I think that that's really compelling information and usually perks up everybody's ears a little.
Absolutely. Yep. We don't want to interfere with that natural nitrogen process. So that leads us to this, right? Mass flow versus diffusion. Essentially, we're talking about how do nutrients get inside the plant. And there's a few different ways, right? You have root interception, you have diffusion, and you have mass flow. And if you look at the macros here, 99% of nitrogen enters the plant through mass flow and 1% through diffusion. So mass flow is essentially a nutrient entering a plant as that plant absorbs water for transpiration, right? So if 99% of our nitrogen is entering our plant through absorption of water, what happens when we get this? This is a key differentiator of us and other products. And it's a differentiator for several reasons. Number one, I go back to, we are not recommending that you reduce your nitrogen. The reason we are not recommending that you reduce your nitrogen is look at this map. There is a higher chance than not, and 5 out of 6 of you guys told me you're short on water last year. There is a higher chance than not that you are probably not bringing in as much nitrogen as that plant needs when the map looks like this. So cutting back nitrogen more is a scary proposition, in my opinion. The other reason that I think that we talk about this dry spell is that NVIDIA is going to deliver that nitrogen directly to the leaf tissue. So instead of having to go up through that root system and through that mass flow process, we can cheat the system a little bit and pull nitrogen directly from the atmosphere into the leaf tissue and skip that process. So I think that's just a critical part of as we move into next year, why that's important. However, we're all familiar with 2012 and then 2013, one of the driest years on record, and then one of the wettest years on record that spring. This can flip on a dime, right? The cool part about NVIDIA is if you have a dry year, it works. If you have a wet year, it works because we know we're going to lose nitrogen through leaching. If you have an average year, it's still going to work because we're more efficient with the nitrogen that we're bringing into the plant. So we are really weatherproofing that nitrogen for you, that you can sleep a little easier at night, no matter what type of condition you're going to get. But it performs extremely well if you get a moderate dry year or if you get a really wet year. I was given a presentation yesterday on the state of Missouri, and it was just kind of funny. This is what they planted into in April 19th, and this is where the map is today. So you can tell a lot of the states are like this. You can highlight almost any state, and it's a very similar kind of color chart on them. Looking at NVIDIA, how's it perform in dry conditions? Central Minnesota, again, you can see the stalk diameters, the ear size, root development. I would get fired from biologicals if I didn't tell you we make a bigger root system. I think that's a prereq to be a biological sales guy. Same thing, another location in central Minnesota, Baldwin, Wisconsin. Look at the firing that's happening on the control side. You go 4 rows over on our NVIDIA plot. Look how much greener and healthier that plot is. This plot is going to yield better than this plot. Looking at the ear size, obviously a difference there as well, just from pulling out of the fields that day. This is Nebraska. I use this slide because this is kind of our almost worst case scenario. I know our growers in Kansas were maybe a little worse off yet than Nebraska, but look at the ear development on dry conditions, right? That ear is just not getting as much nitrogen as it wants. This is that same area, but now we're in the same field as a leading competitor. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but you can use your imagination. Look at the difference in ear development there on the NVIDIA versus the competitor on just how well that ear filled out. Both ears are short nitrogen, but the NVIDIA is not nearly as short on nitrogen as the competitor is. So on dry conditions, NVIDIA is going to be your best friend. But here's the good news, guys. The largest reservoir of nitrogen in the world is found in our atmosphere, and it's free. It's the air that we breathe. We just got to find a way to get bacteria to bring it into the plant and allow that crop to utilize it for free, right? So that's what NVIDIA is doing. It's tapping into the savings account above ground and allowing you to be efficient with your savings account below ground. Another one, this came to us from Michael out of southern Wisconsin. Again, you can see just the color differentiation there on the NVIDIA strips versus the control. Doesn't always show like this on a drone, but when it does, it's really fun to see. Okay, any questions on how the product works, how to apply it, those types of things? We're going to finish up with a little bit of data here, and then I'm going to spend just 5 or 10 minutes on our NutriQuire product.
I don't have any questions in the chat.
Okay, we'll keep going along. I do have a poll question while I'm doing this. Going into 2023 versus 2022, how many of you have growers that are going to be reducing either NP or K? And if you don't mind, type in the chat box which one they're going to be reducing the most, because I think that's going to help me out on the next part of the presentation here. Okay, so let's look at data. Again, we do proof of concept trials with products to make sure they work. I'm getting really bored doing NVIDIA proof of concept trials because it's pretty much the same information every year. 20 trials again this past season, 85% win rate, and I believe it was 9.7 bushels when we won, which 85% and 9.7 is maybe a little bit higher than we've had in the past. But again, it was a dry year in 2022. Oh, hang on, trying to advance the slide. There we go. This is what I'm most proud of as a company, though. We now have 4-year data set, over 122 data points, 45 locations, 82% win rate with this product. And when we win, it's by 8.3 bushels. This is your fungicide of biological products. You put it on enough acres, you put it on enough ground, you use it enough years in a row, you are going to see the ROI on this product 4 out of 5 years. Are you going to see it 5 out of 5 years? More than likely not, right? But we do have a performance guarantee that if you catch that odd year where nitrogen wasn't your limiting factor, maybe something else was, then we're going to go ahead and replace that product to you for free, as long as you used at least one case of our product in the past and you didn't get at least 2.5 bushels out of that field on corn. So we want to make it right. If you don't run into that limiting factor of nitrogen, we want you to have a good experience with it. But overall, the likelihood is you're going to have a good experience with it.
So Josh, we've got a couple answers. We've got reducing in, talking about reducing them all based on cost.
Okay. I've heard P&K is going to take the biggest hit this year on reduction. Nitrogen, I think a lot of guys faced that battle last year and they're kind of where they're at on that. So that's good to hear. I think you're kind of right in line with where we're going here. So let's talk about reduction, right? Because we do not advocate reducing nutrient. That's not our decision to make. I don't know your soil system. I don't know your cropping system and all that. But we do have trials that look at nitrogen reductions, not because we're encouraging you to cut back, but again, we're encouraging you to look at what happens if you have that dry year or that wet year and you lose 40 pounds of nitrogen that you were planning on having in your system. So if you look at the application here, 180 pounds of N versus 140 pounds of N, we did 2 reps in the field. Rep number 1, we had a 24 bushel advantage on our treated versus untreated at 140 pounds. Rep 2, we had almost a 21 bushel advantage on treated versus untreated. Farmers are gamblers, guys. They gamble their livelihood every single year when they put that crop in the field. They also really like safety nets. This is a safety net for them to be able to say, if I have that nitrogen loss situation, I have Envita in my system to make sure I'm not going to go backwards dramatically on my yield. And that's really what we're offering here with this product, that if you catch a normal year, you know, you have a really good chance of picking up 8 bushel. If you catch a year where nitrogen is a massive limiting factor for you, your result could be as high as 20-25 bushel. Soybeans, again, 90% win rate this year. It's probably a little high compared to most years, just because we did get some good moisture during pod fill this year, which helped us out. But, you know, again, just over 4 bushel when we win. This came to us out of Minnesota, looking at soybeans. Michael sent us this out of Illinois, looking at beans. But ultimately, here's our data set on multi-year. Just under 70% win rate. The first 2 years we did this, really dry years. So pod fill was a real issue. The last year we did it, pretty good moisture year here. So we're averaging 4.2 bushel when we do get the response, you know, and as long as we catch a few rains during pod fill, this is a really nice product for beans. I'm going to fly through just a couple of things here and then we'll switch gears. But on alfalfa, we talked about nitrogen, a building block for amino acids and proteins, right? So look at the protein level on alfalfa here out of Wisconsin. Utah State University did very similar trials and it worked out almost identical. We're averaging about 1.5 points bump on protein, which if you've had to buy soybean meal, that is a dramatic difference for you. It's actually more profitable than the corn and the beans I just showed you. But the cool part is you only need to apply it once and it continues to grow with the new crop each season. It does not overwinter, so you do need to apply it once a year, but throughout the course of the season, it'll regrow with each new crop. Relative feed value, very similar, right? We're bumping that protein, which is a big part of relative feed value. We're seeing, you know, 19, 20 points on relative feed value, which is how a lot of guys are going to buy and sell alfalfa. So really nice response on alfalfa. Any questions on corn, soybeans, alfalfa? I have data on, you know, potatoes, on sugar beets, on sunflowers, on wheat, on all the other crops. But for the sake of time, I just wanted to focus on the top 3 before we kind of switch gears here. But I'll open it up for any questions on Envita before I spend the last 10 minutes of my time introducing you to our new product.
I don't have any questions in the chat box.
Perfect.
Oh, maybe I do. Any tonnage difference on alfalfa?
Yes, slight. So we saw I think Utah State's difference was 4%, which was about 250, 300 pounds an acre. It was more than enough to pay for the product. It just wasn't, hugely significant. I will say I did have a customer in Wisconsin this year that went out with the square and did the cuttings and measured it all and did all that throughout each crop. And he actually saw a really nice advantage on tonnage over 1 ton an acre. But again, that was probably a pretty small sample size. He was out there with just the square, throwing it in the field and taking the cuttings.
Can I go to my staff meeting? Please.
Good question, though. Okay, well, if you guys continue to have questions, type them in. I can interrupt in the next part of the presentation, no big deal. But guys, this is about the easiest biological you're ever going to sell in your life. I call it a gateway drug to biologicals because farmers understand nitrogen, and if we can explain to them that all we're doing with this is getting more nitrogen to the crop more efficiently, then it's going to be a nice situation for us. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you real quick to our phos solubilizing product, and then I'm going to finish up with an introductory of soy effects. So 10 minutes more time, guys, and I promise I'll have you out of here. We're not going to be on for another hour. Envita was by far the longest part of the presentation. So NutriQuire, what is it? It's a liquid consortium of bacteria. This is our one and only in soil product. Primarily works in soil. There is some plant technology in here, but for the most part, it's a soil based biological. And this is our message this year: is maximize your nutrients with NutriQuire, right? So we've done some data with it. This is another multi-crop product for us, but we're going to go through just kind of real quickly some of the highlights, and then we'll switch gears. One of the things we talk about with this product is dual action, below ground and above ground benefits. So we're gonna basically improve some of that root structure and the soil aggregation. We're going to improve that mineralization of nutrients in the soil. We're going to make everything else we put with this product more efficient. The bacteria help the nitrogen. If you apply it with nitrogen, convert quicker. It helps your herbicide. If you apply this with herbicide, it helps that get into the plant more efficiently. So really, it's a great product to apply with something else. It's spore forming. It's very versatile. Creates a larger canopy, and then allows for some foliar pathways and stomata functions to improve. But I'm going to keep going forward because I got a few highlights I want to go through. Bacillus subtilis is one of the key bacteria in here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through the biography of what each of these do, but there's a ton of information out there on Bacillus as far as its ability to heighten the defense mechanism of plants, utilize nutrients more efficiently, carbon cycling process, phosphorus solubilizing. I mean, it's just one of the backbone bacteria that has been discovered in agriculture. Pseudomonas batida is another one. Again, it's a great one. It's very vigorous. It's got a high oxidative stress resistance. You can apply it with a lot of different things, and it's going to survive. Both of these bacteria, one of the really cool things they do is they release spores. Those spores will survive through extreme heat conditions. So when the live bacteria may die off, the spores survive. And then when conditions become more favorable for them to hatch and regrow, they're already in your soil doing that. So a really cool situation with both of these strains of bacteria. This one's a little different. We can be, because we're spore formers, we can be applied with just about anything. But I would recommend putting it down in furrow with a starter fertilizer is probably the best way because we're going to get the double bang for our buck. We're going to convert the starter fertilizer to more usable forms, but we're also going to have some significant impact in the soil, which we'll go through here in a minute. You can apply it pre-broadcast. You can apply it with 2x2. Really, there isn't a wrong way of doing it at planting or prior to planting. Foliar, again, pick your poison: nitrogen, herbicide, fungicide. We can go in with all three. You can apply it. My recommendation would be is apply it directly with UAN. Do not need to mix water with this. You apply it with 28% nitrogen, and it's going to convert that nitrogen to more efficient forms quicker to get utilized by the plant. So you get really nice efficiencies out of doing that. Timing wise, huge window of opportunity here because it mostly impacts the soil, not the plant. You know, pretty much throughout the entire season, you can apply this product. Same with soybeans, you know, through most of the year. This product is extremely beneficial for soybeans. Soybeans are potassium users late season. We're mineralizing a lot of that potassium in the soil, making it available to help finish off those pods. So if you're using SoyFX, this is a great bundle product to put with SoyFX to help finish off that pod fill. But here's what I wanted to get to, is just talking about what it does and where we're going to target this product. The obvious target on this is high and low pH. So on the left-hand side, you're looking at lower pH. On the right-hand side, you're looking at some higher pH. And then those little pink bubbles, that's our phosphorus in the soil. And this is typically what happens in low and high pH situations. In low pH, that phosphorus wants to bind to iron and aluminum. In a high pH, it wants to bind to calcium. What we do is we apply these spore-forming bacteria in NutriQuire to your soil. Those bacteria are going to release organic acids and enzymes. And essentially, those organic acids and enzymes help neutralize the pH around that binded up phosphorus. And as an end result, what you get is that phos disconnects or unbinds, whatever you want to call it, from the actual element that it was bound to. So now that phosphorus is available in the inorganic form for the plant root to be able to intercept it and take it up. So very similar thing that happens with potassium. Essentially, we are just unlocking it from the situation that it's tied up to. So I'm going to ask a question in the chat. What percentage of phosphorus is actually utilized in year one when you apply it? You know, if you put 100% of phos down, what percent actually gets utilized? Give us your best guess in the chat box here, and then Shane will read them off here in a minute. So that's how it works. We're going to target some higher and some lower pH situations. The other one, and this, I've never been more proud of a slide than I am of this one, is manure ground. We're going to target manure ground because obviously it's heavily loaded with phos, and that phos is going to tie up quite a bit. So those are where we're going to target our acres with NutriQuire. Data-wise, 9 bushels on corn in our trials this year. Phenomenal product this year on corn. I'm not going to go through all of them slide by slide here, but essentially 202 bushel on the control versus 211 on the NutriQuire. On soybeans, I mentioned beans are late potassium users. Great product on soybeans. 3.5 bushel, almost. It's 3.4 bushel on soybeans when using the NutriQuire there. So really nice product to consider using. Very easy to use. Very versatile product. Again, I'm not going to go through all of them.
We have a guess of 25 and 15.
Close. About 30% roughly, according to University of Illinois. 30% of the phosphorus applied is going to get utilized year one. So you're going to lose just about 70% of that to either being tied up to other elements or a small portion of it does leach away. But our goal is to tap into that savings account that you already have in your soil and make it available to the crop. So that was my really quick introduction to NutriQuire. If you want more information on this, get a hold of Michael. We can get you the information and the data. For those of you that are around the country that do other things besides corn and beans, another great one. Wheat is really where we're going to push this product. We think this could be a monster for wheat because you can apply it directly with your 28% green up in the spring and really help mineralize that P and K, but also convert that nitrogen to more efficient use and get more bang for the buck. So for those of you that do winter wheat, this is the product that I would recommend that we want to mix with that 28% green up shot in the spring.
Brian Tully says, can't trust Illinois, only Texas A&M. Thought I would add that.
Well, Brian, if it makes you feel better, the product is actually made in Texas. And that's the other differentiator of this product is it has to be made in cold fermentation vats. It takes 9 months for the product to get from start to finish. And basically what they do is they let all the weaker species die off. And then after that 9 months, when it's gone through all the weather elements, the strongest of those species that are left is what gets harvested for this product. So very vigorous strains of bacteria, just a great way. It's like turning a zoo animal loose in the wild versus one that was raised in the wild. We have the wild animals to go out there and survive. Brian likes to take a shot at any state besides Texas whenever he can, including Iowa, which he lives in. So that baffles me a little bit. Okay. The last 3 minutes, I'm just going to do a quick introductory to SoyFX, and I'll let you guys go here. So SoyFX is this year will probably be our number 3 product behind Invita and NutriQuire, but it's our most unique product in how it works. It is a biological. It has a cousin product called Crown FX, which does a very similar thing in wheat. So I'm not going to cover Crown FX in depth today, but just know that a lot of the same things that happen with SoyFX are going to occur with Crown FX. So product profile, it is a biological that has over 60 different bacteria in there. So seed treatment is the best way to apply it. It has 100-day seed viability. Otherwise, you can go in furrow or foliar. You just need to get it down early in that plant process to make sure we have the influence that we want, and I'll go through that in a minute. But really the key benefits, more branching, increase in flowers, increased nodulation, reduce the plant stress, and it really does aid in hail recovery. So we're going to focus real quick on just some of those key benefits. Okay, I'm going to skip this, but in your product guides, or we can send you a sell sheet that has this. It's got the point by point kind of how this product works and what it does at each level of the plant.
Josh, go ahead. You've got 5 minutes. It's fine.
Sure. So increased nodulation right out of the gate is what we see with this product. We're not a replacement for inoculant. We just increase the existing nodulation. Branching is a huge part of this, and then increasing the pods and the flowers. And this is really what I wanted to get to here. This is my way of showing how this product works. So it's not.
You muted yourself, Josh.
Oh, sorry. Look at these early branches. We're going to target these areas here with our bacteria and really work on trying to influence that. So our bacteria are going to get in here. They're going to convince these early axillary branches that they're their own plant. And the reason that's important is now these branches, they think they're their own plant. They're going to kick off additional branching, right? Those additional branches aren't just going to go to waste. They're actually going to kick off additional flowers. And those additional flowers ultimately are going to end up being additional pods. So early on in that life cycle, we're going to influence that plant morphology. We're going to increase the branching. We're going to put more flowers on there. And ultimately, we're going to end up with more pods on that plant. That's the secret sauce of this product. If you walk a field that has SoyFX in it versus one that doesn't, you will notice the difference just walking through the rows. It closes the canopy quicker. It's a bushier bean. It's got a lot more lower pod set on it than the control. Where do we want to put it? We want to put this wherever we can put it on the seed is the best situation. Again, early in furrow or early foliar is a really nice way of doing it. But because we influence that lower lateral branching, we want to get it on early. Group 2 soybeans are longer. I just got data in over the weekend from University of Wisconsin Extension. The southern part of the state had a phenomenal response, and they were using, I believe, a Group 2 variety of beans. The northern part of the state was not as good. However, they were also in some drought areas as well, which I think influenced the yield. So the longer the bean variety, typically the better the response is with SoyFX. Late foliar is not ideal for us just because we influence it early in the process. Heat and drought stress, that one's a little bit of a challenge for us. Last year we were dry, but we did get rain during pod fill. So if you get some good shots of rain during pod fill, this product can still work really well. If Mother Nature turns the tap off in July and August and you get no rain, it's really hard to make any product perform well if you can't get rain to fill pods. So we're no different than any other product in that situation. And then we want fertility. If we're going to put all those additional pods on the plant, we want to make sure we have the fertility to help fill that out. Our trial data this year, we had 7 locations around the Midwest with it. We averaged just under 3 bushel with it. Again, we caught some nice shots of rain this year that really helped us out. Wisconsin Extension data, very similar data to what we saw. Where they got the rain, it was actually above average. It was closer to 5-6 bushel. where they didn't get rain up in Menominee, Wisconsin, you know, some of that central area. It was basically a push, maybe a slight advantage to even some of it was like negative 0.1 bushel, somewhere in there. So if we get rain, this product does a phenomenal job as long as we have fertility as well to support it. This is a great example. On the left-hand side here, we're talking about untreated versus treated. You can see, you know, the analogy our guys use, it's like a light pole versus chandelier is really the feedback they give us on this product. And then the hail event. We've all been through it. You get a hail event and you're like, man, do I replant or do I just let it grow through? If you have soy effects in your system, we can help recover a lot quicker. That same mechanism that gives you that additional branching will give you additional branching on the hail damage. So we can regrow a lot quicker and rescue some of that yield. It is not I have 100% hail out, I'm going to use soy effects and I'm okay. I'm on the border of, do I replant or do I let it go? And if you let it go, if soy effects is in your system, you're going to sleep a lot easier at night. So we can also come in as a hail kind of rescue if you're going to let it grow. If you hit that with the foliar version within 7 to 10 days, there's a pretty high likelihood that we can really help with that regrowth as well. So keep that in mind if you have customers that do get hit by hail. It is a little bit more expensive to do than the seed coat. So our recommendation would be just get it on as a seed coat. Okay, I went 5 minutes long, but I appreciate your guys' time. Any other questions that are out there on any of the 3 products that we covered?
I can't tell. It looks like someone may have raised their hand, but it may have been an accident too. So if you have a question, now would be a good time to ask.
So thank you for this, Josh and Shandy. Wonderful results this year. You can see several products here that fit into what we're wanting to do to help the farmers in this biological space with ROI, with products that can be used in different manners, whether that's in furrow, foliar, or seed treatment. And so these are key products in our lineup, leader products. If you look at our top 6 or 8 products, these fall into that range there. So for those who are attending, if you want to take off your mute and want to chat or have some questions answered, please do that at this time. And if you need to get to go to another event, we understand. You're welcome to bow out. But now's the time for question and answers, and we'll stay here to receive those from the group.